Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield. Massive show for you today. We're talking Ledgestone. We're talking purse watch at Ledgestone. We're talking the state of the media in disc golf, something we haven't talked about in quite some time. But Josh, before we begin, as you know, the Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And I have a special surprise right now. Josh doesn't know about this. Nobody knows about this. But what do I have right here? Right here, I have a package from Pound Disc Golf. Inside this package is a Rufus, brand new, smaller style bag from Pound. So we're going to go ahead and do an unboxing right here live on the show. And I'm going to open up this. I don't even know what the colorway is. Pound sent it out to me. I feel incredibly lucky. I get a first run Rufus. Second run is coming soon, I am told. They're going to open up pre-orders again for second run in the next couple of weeks. So obviously we'll keep you posted over here. But I've got my knife. I've got this box. Let's check it out. Josh, what color do you think I'm going to get?
I think you're probably going to get like the blue and red colorway.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Let's see what we got going on here. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see what color it is. If you're not, I will explain it to you.
If you're not, this is now an ASMR podcast of boxes and tape.
All right, so here we go. Ooh.
Is that a blacked out Rufus?
Black.
Oh, with the blue line.
With
nice.
the silver.
Oh,
trim
silver.
and the
Okay.
Silver logo. I think. Yeah, I would call it gray silver.
Okay.
So black with the silver trim, and the big old Pound logo up top. And wow, let's check it out. I have some discs to put inside. It is such a nice size. Like, this is my dream. As anybody who's been listening to this podcast knows, I have been waiting for a small bag from Pound for like 5 years, me and everybody else, and here it is. So we're going to go ahead and open up this main pocket. And what do we got inside? We got the
drink insert. Yep.
Little drink insert here. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Got a little rapscallion sticker. Going to put that on one of my Pelican cases.
Nice.
Okay. So let me grab some of my discs.
For those of you who may not have listened to the In the Bag episode that Charlie and I did last year, remember, Charlie's been using a Pound toolbox as his bag. He carries around with the handles on the disc golf course.
I'm about to move the discs from this bag into my main bag.
Charlie has desperately needed something that he can put on his back in some way, shape, or form. So this is a big deal right now.
So we're going to go ahead and put the putter up here in the top pocket, putter zone. I gave away my second putter because my brother needed a disc, so I have to get a second putter. And then let's see. Just a bunch of discs. Just going to go straight in there. Bunch more. They're not organized right now. Don't judge me. I'm not one of those color people who has all the same color discs. I also tend to just kind of put... Mostly I organize drivers, mids, putters. Wow. I do have some more discs in another bag, but like... I've got most of my bag in here, and there's like still tons of space. I don't know how well that's coming across on video, but like... I probably have, let's see, 4, 8... I have 12 discs in here plus a putter, and I still have room for at least another 6 discs.
Nice.
Comfortably. So there you go. If you're not someone who carries a huge bag, wow, it's so light. So light. And now I can actually wear a backpack on the course and carry my water bottle without fatiguing my arm. So there it is. Brand new Pound Rufus. Got a Pound sticker in the drink carrier. Ooh, there's a second Pound. Look, sneaky stickers everywhere right now.
Look at that.
Wow. So again, you can go to pounddiscgolf.com and check out the Rufus and like I said, another release is coming very soon. So black and silver looking very sharp. So Josh, let's get into some disc golf. Ledgestone was this weekend. Ricky Wysocki becomes the first MPO player to 3 wins this season on the Elite Series, as he has now won Texas State's, DDO, and now at Ledgestone. Starting to get a little bit of a reputation for dominating at the biggest DGPT money event of the season. Ledgestone, another win for him. Obviously, he had the tie last year, but if there was any doubt about like where Ricky's at, post knees swell up, Lyme disease flare up, you got to put him to bed. Like, this guy's still the number 1 player right now. I don't think that there's really a lot of an argument for like who should be ranked number 1 in the world. I think it's pretty clearly Ricky.
Yeah, there's plenty of players who I think have had cases made throughout the season. Chris Dickerson after winning the major, because he had the Silver Series wins as well to kind of pad around that major. You had Simon and his streak of dominance where he played just incredibly well from DDO through the West Coast swing. And then Calvin's got a couple wins, and so there was a point when he felt like he was a top contender. But with Ricky's 3 wins and consistency throughout the season, you have to think Ricky is the number 1 player right now. And that's a nice place to be when you're only 1 tournament out from Worlds. It's peaking at the right time. And when you look at the other players, not only are they not peaking, they're struggling. And it's I think by their standards, probably not where they hope to be. We'll talk more about that when we get to stats. But when you look around and just kind of watched the coverage this weekend, after Gannon kind of went cold, it felt like it was just, and Ricky's 6 birdie stretch, just no one could touch him. And that's an odd place to be when you've got other players who are also, definitely thinking about Worlds, who are thinking about the kind of paycheck that Ledgestone brings. And so for Ricky to win so handedly at one of the most important events of the season, it just really feels like Ricky's getting into the swing of things just at the perfect time. Yeah,
this is Wysocki's 3rd straight Ledgestone win, of course. He actually, and we have a lot of stats today, courtesy of Statmando, so I'll just thank them up front for all of the awesome input they give us for the show every week after these Elite Series events. Wysocki has the 2 longest win streaks at Elite Series and majors. He's got 4 in a row at Texas State's and now 3 in a row at Ledgestone, obviously tying last year with Calvin after the rain lightning shortened tournament. But not only that, Josh, but he's the first player to 3 wins. And this is the first time since 2012 that we've gotten to the end of August and we've only had a player with 3 wins. So, like, we talk all the time about parity increasing and everything else. And, like, this is more true than we've seen. Like, the stats back up the intuition here as it relates to dominance of, the decreasing dominance of the top players. Right. I mean, obviously, we're still seeing Ricky and Eagle and Calvin and Paul and the best players winning an outsized number of the tournaments, but they're spreading out the wins a lot more, compared to the past when we see Ricky's and the Pauls of the world winning every single week. Now you have other players winning. I mean, you think about some of the surprise winners we've had this season. But Ricky coming around to show you that, like, hey, Worlds is coming, and we're going right back to Emporia, where you have to think he's clearly the favorite because of DDO, on top of the fact that he's playing great right now.
Yeah, I don't have any other favorite in my mind that would even be able to contend with Ricky. And I know once we get to major time, the discussion changes a little bit. It shifts away from just current performance to as well historic major performance and experience, and both of those things begin to play an outsized factor that don't necessarily hold the same weight in week to week Elite Series events. But Ricky has it all. He's got previous Worlds wins. He's got years on the tour. He's got experience at Emporia and playing majors at Emporia.
And a major win in Emporia.
And he's looking and is going in with the best season. No major win this season. But other than that, he's got the best season without a doubt going into that event. All around, Ricky has the complete package, and it makes him the favorite.
Clearly the favorite. I mean, I don't think you could really argue otherwise right now. Doesn't mean he's going to win, of course, but
sure,
if Vegas is laying odds, he's going to be the number one guy. Can just real quick? We are T-minus 2 weeks from Worlds. 2 Tuesdays from today begins Worlds. Okay, so just put that in your mind. It's happening. That's crazy to me. And we've got Des Moines Challenge coming up this weekend before that. And, I feel like Des Moines Challenge kind of gets the short end of the stick with the scheduling every year. This in D-Glow. I feel like it's always like, it's right after Europe, or it's like right before this, or DMC moved around, right? It was right before Worlds last time too, right?
Yes,
last year?
Yeah.
It was
right
before
I think that's right.
They got, or it was either right before or right after Worlds.
I think it was...
Either way, it was on a bad spot on the schedule. I think it was right after. And the year before that, too, it also wasn't great. Anyway, we'll talk more about DMC on Thursday. Just really impressive stuff from Ricky. He's got 6 podiums this season. That's tied with Calvin after this weekend. And, I don't know what else there is to say. Like, to be able to go out and play great on 2 very different courses with Eureka and Northwood and shut it down in the final round when there were a lot of people who were up at the top and could have won, like another week where Paul McBeth is like in the hunt going into the final round and then can't win it. And we obviously saw Gannon Burr up at the top and Anthony Barella up at the top. AB playing great golf right now. Is he a sneaky factor for Worlds?
Yeah, yes, like he could be. I think the biggest problem, it's like Paige said about a lot of the other young, impressive players. If he comes in to the final round at Worlds near the lead, or in second or with the lead, I think he's gonna go to bed and he's just gonna be thinking about what would that mean for my career, and what would and Anthony Barella is not the shining bastion of consistency. And so
that's an understatement, perhaps.
Right. I tried to be as generous as I could. And how does that apply then when you have the pressure of a world title on the line? He's played well, but I don't think this is the year I would consider him, and I know we're talking an outsider or a outside chance, but just doesn't seem. The odds would have to be pretty far for me to take Anthony Barella.
I understand. I totally agree. And over 5 rounds, like, do you really trust that Anthony Barella is going to get the job done? Yeah. Probably not. But I would just note that, like, he's playing some of the best disc golf we've seen him play. Statistically, it didn't help himself in the final round, but statistically, his putting was pretty good this weekend, which has been a problem. Now, he missed some key putts in that final round that kind of kept him out of the mix, but it's also just spraying the disc at times, which, when you look back at DDO, he at the new Jones Supreme course did not play very well. Shot around 10-10-ish average, which is just not going to get the job done, no. At any tournament, but let alone Worlds, where, maybe you can get away with 1 round at 10-10, but you certainly can't get away with 2. The note, he shot a 59 in the final round at Emporia, which was around 1060 rated. So it's like, okay, like, sorry, it was 1050 rated. I don't want to give too much credit. 1050, but like still that's a good result. That was a very good score that day. I think, was that the hot round? It was. He, Kyle Klein, and Simon all shot a 59. So he can shred at Emporia. Can he show up and keep it between the lines at Jones Supreme? Now, with the wind being a major factor, I don't know. I guess we should save some of the Worlds talk for Worlds preview stuff, but I'm just starting to think about it, right? As we come out of these tournaments, like, okay, great. Like Ledgestone, it's an important tournament. There's a lot of money on the line. We'll get to the purse watch in a little bit. Obviously, it's the biggest DGPT payout of the season before the Tour Championship. And so, like, it's an important event. But because of the timing this year and where Worlds is, like, it's feeling like, okay, like, who's ready to go win in Emporia?
It's hard not to think about everything at this point in context of what it sets up for Worlds. But what a great problem to have, right? Because last year, the first like stretch of the season, we're just like, none of it matters. It's early. There's nothing important now. Then we started getting close to Worlds, and like everything started getting framed in Worlds. And then Worlds happens. And then, we talked a lot about Ledgestone as its own thing, but then it was like, whatever. There's no majors until USDGC. We got a ways. We're fine. So I love the fact that these tournaments are weighted, juxtaposed, and evaluated in the context of not just each other, but how they play into the world's conversation, because I think it's just so healthy for the sport, building that kind of excitement and anticipation around majors, that even if you only have fans who watch the 4 majors, like they do, playoff fans who just watch the playoffs of every sport but don't follow the entire season sometimes, those are the kind of casual fans that are important. And I know we're going to get more to coverage and media, but what a great problem to have, that we can't talk about Ledgestone without talking about a major.
Well, and having 4 majors, and the cadence of that. I mean, that's why I think it's so critical that PDGA decided to move Champions Cup back to WR Jackson and keep it in April, because, having Champions Cup be in whatever it was going to be, June or July, at Toboggan was going to suck, because then you're going to have all of these tournaments packed into the back half of the season again. Like, Worlds next year is in Vermont, so that's going to be in September, or, whatever, late August, early September. And so that's pushed all the way to the back of the season. So then once again, you would have this long 6 months. Now we have this regularity. We have, to get Champions Cup, then European, then Worlds, then USDGC on the MPO side. And it's a fairly similar story on the FPO side. Slightly different scheduling with US Women's, but Throw Pink's going to feel like a major, as we've talked about many times. You have this nice regularity of big tentpole tournaments. And yes. I think, a lot of people are going to hang their hat on winning Ledgestone.
Yep.
It may not be the most aesthetically beautiful courses. You could argue about Northwood. Pretty nice. But in terms of importance during the regular season, it's about as big as it gets. From the money, 4-round tournament, the pomp and circumstance of the whole thing. Let's talk about some other storylines this weekend. McBeth ends up finishing in second place. Gannon Burr in third, 1 shot back of McBeth. Those 2 guys are tied for the most top 10 finishes at Elite Series and Majors this year at 10. That's in MPO. Which, it goes to show you, like, Gannon Burr, like, that speaks for itself, right? This kid's a teenager, incredible, blossoming over the last 2 seasons, and particularly this year has been incredible. I mean, like, arguably the most consistent week-to-week player in MPO. Now, he doesn't have that Elite Series win yet, but it's just a matter of time. We know this. I think we're seeing him take some lumps sometimes in these rounds. To shoot only a 3 under in the final round is a disappointment, I think. Yeah. Too many bogeys. The putting was fine. That wasn't the issue. And he actually had that crazy throw in to bail himself out from the drop zone. So, that kind of kept him in the mix. But, when Ricky went 6 under from 8 to 13, and over that same stretch, Gannon went 1 over, like, goodbye, right? It's over. And, like, being able to score when the top player is scoring is actually a key part of final round disc golf. Like, it's not just about what the score is at the end of the round, because if you're behind by 3 or 4 strokes and there's only 3 or 4 holes to play, it's honestly too late because the player with the lead can play differently. And maybe the scores end up looking more compressed, but it's because they've already beaten you. Like it's already over at that point. But Gannon still killing it. And McBeth, despite the roller coaster ride it feels like we're on with him, is still incredibly consistent to the point where he is tied for the most top 10 finishes. And, I know we've talked about this before, but there's just like such a burden of expectations on McBeth for his performance. And, I don't want to sit here and tell you that like he's having some amazing season, because I think by his standards, he clearly is not. But he's still in the mix all the time. And I think we're seeing him playing better right now. And I think that, he's obviously going to be a big threat to win at Worlds as well.
Both players, I think, are the fact that they're hanging around. It shows to me, most importantly, that the level of golf that they're playing, that their abilities are there. And while there are things that are, like you said, preventing them from getting the wins, it is come Worlds time. Paul McBeth is always a factor. But I think you have to think about Gannon Buhr. For someone who can hang around like that, even though he's had rounds that, especially final rounds, that have fallen apart, you've only got to do it once to win a world championship, right? Like you only, final round, those final round jitters can affect you all season long. But if you can fix it for one tournament, then, I mean, imagine a world where Gannon shoots a similar round, or just not even a 3-under, but like 5 or something. That 5 is enough for him to at least be in the discussion with Ricky, and Ricky doesn't get to go. And now, Gannon's bogeys on 17, 18 obviously don't help or anything, but Ricky was able to go double bogey on 17 and par on 18 and still feel completely comfortable. You have to think that Gannon has the ability and that could very possibly put together a final round to, if not win, at least be in contention and make the leader have to continue to play all the way to the end. And what an exciting place that is for Gannon, that he's even in that conversation. I was just thinking about how Chris Dickerson leaves, and we thought, okay, Kevin Jones is Prodigy's guy. Let's see how this works. Trent Allen leaves as well. And we had been a little hard on Prodigy, and Gannon Buhr has just outshone Kevin Jones at every turn possible this season.
Yeah, like, is it even a question?
I mean, Kevin had the 3rd place finish at the European Open.
I'll give you some stats. All right.
Okay. All right.
Gannon Buhr,
some stats.
2 Elite Series and Majors podiums. Same for Kevin Jones. Okay. But Gannon has 10 top 10s. Kevin Jones has 3. Average finish for Gannon is 7.67. That's 3rd on tour behind Ricky and Calvin. Kevin Jones, still top 10, but his average finish is 16.42. I mean, it's just really not a question about who's having the better season and who's been the flag bearer. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, Gannon Buhr, unlike Prodigy young compatriot Isaac Robinson, does not have an Elite Series win.
Nope.
Kevin Jones is probably still the more famous player, the more marketable player at this point. Gannon's a little bit controversial because of, I think, just his general kind of comportment, but also the timing. Now, I will give Gannon credit. He was better at Ledgestone. He's better at Ledgestone. And I think it goes to show you this is why rules enforcement is important. Like, we need players to call themselves on mistakes. Paige Pierce called herself on a foot fault this weekend. Called herself on a foot fault. And then no one else was watching. So no one seconded it. And there was this weird interaction with Jeff Spring, like temporarily seconding the call. But like, come on, man. If the players aren't going to do it, which they've proven to us time and time again that they're not going to do it, we need to have somebody out there who can call these infractions. Because my point is, Gannon, when prompted, Like, dude, you're playing too slow. Picks it up.
Mm-hmm.
His natural pace wants to slow down a ton. And if somebody says to him, you need to play faster, he plays faster. And yes, you can say, hey, it's on him, which of course it is. Of course, at the end of the day, it is on him. But this is my point. Like, we need to call the rules because then things will be better. Like, people will not fall off the tee pad or step on their mini or whatever. But no one is doing it. So there has to be a solution besides telling the players that you need to do it. Now, somebody emailed us. I want to bring this email in right now because I think it's a great point.
Okay.
I'm going to try to pull it up while I get it. They emailed Upshot.
Okay. Yep.
In the PGA Tour, for timing, they will have a marshal come and say, hey, your card is playing too slow. You need to pick up the pace. And if they don't pick up the pace, the entire card gets stroked. Instead of isolating an individual player, they tell the card you're playing too slow. This is a very clean way to get rules enforcement better, right? If you have a rules marshal and there's a card playing too slow, they can go over and they can say, we're going to stroke the card if you don't pick it up. And now the players have an incentive for not only themselves, but enforcing on their card mates to play faster. It's a simple thing. It only requires a warning. Nobody's going to want to have everybody take a stroke on the card. It's a beautiful mechanism, and I don't see any reason why it couldn't work in disc golf. Because that's the way you create an incentive for players to call each other on it. Do we have the name of the person who sent the email?
I couldn't find the email.
Couldn't find it. I'll find it. But what are your thoughts, Josh?
I think it's an excellent solution. I love that because there's a couple of things that I think go into it that I really like. Number one is it's not just about hard and fast. Oh, every time someone steps up to their mini, you're setting a 30-second timer. Oh, your timer buzzed. Either ask for your extension or you're getting stroked, right? It's about overall pace. It's about how is your card doing? You can see behind you, how are things behind you going? It's about overall experience with the viewers. And there are going to be some courses that play slower, but as long as the cards entirely, right? Because that's the biggest thing that I've been thinking a lot about is Northwood Black probably needs more time to throw than Lake Eureka.
Sure.
And the rules don't have a mechanism for accommodating that. But when you talk about it as a card in general and create that incentive to make sure that the card is playing quickly, I think it does two things. Number one, as you said, it incentivizes players to enforce on themselves. But number two is it flips the pressure away from the players who don't want to enforce a rule because they're uncomfortable, they don't want to make the card uncomfortable, to the player who's playing slow because they are now the responsible one for getting an entire card stroked. Mm-hmm. So instead of the three card mates of Gannon being, oh, I don't want to call Gannon because we're buddies, right? Alden Harris in particular. Gannon, after being warned by a PDGA official, your card is playing too slow, you need to pick it up, now bears the onus of stroking everybody else for his slow play.
Right.
And it completely reverses the incentive structure towards the players who are playing slow and incentivizes them to play quicker using the exact same pressure that the reason we have rules enforcement right now. I love this solution. I think it's incredible. Let
us know your thoughts. Email us upshot@ultiworld.com. I want to come back to McBeth really quick. As much as he's still, been around the top 10, as much as anybody besides Gannon Burr, Darren LeMay, Ultiworld Disc Golf writer, pulled an incredible stat. This is now the longest streak of tournaments in Paul McBeth's career in which he has not won. 12 tournaments he's played without a win. That is the longest of his career, dating all the way back to the beginning of his days as a junior player, basically. This is through when he started a PDGA membership in 2007. He has never gone 12 tournaments without a win until now in 2022. His last win was at Throwdown the Mountain in April. Now he's come close. He's had multiple second place finishes. He's been on the podium. Obviously, he was, did just about everything possible to win at European Open, except that there was an eagle flying high that weekend. And I mean, I just think that's an incredible number. Not only does it speak to how great Paul McBeth is as a player, but it also shows you what kind of season we've had.
It also speaks, I think, to, as you said, not only the kind of season that we've had, but it speaks to, I think, a new generation of disc golf fans. And generation is a word that has to be used carefully, because it doesn't refer to, the fact, like, my kids or, whatever. It refers to the kind of groupings of how we, like, players perceive the game and fans perceive the game. You have those who saw the Barry Schultz, Ken Climo era. You have those who then transition into, and there are always transition periods, but you have a large majority of disc golf fans, I would say, right now, who are actively engaged in the sport, probably are McBeth, Wysocki, Shoestrick fans, right? That's I think the grouping.
Shoestrick's a stretch. I mean,
Shoestrick might be a stretch.
I'll give you Wysocki and McBeth. I mean, Shoestrick belongs to an earlier era, I think.
Okay, so if we say even earlier era, so maybe we even have to split that. But I mean, Paul was winning back by then as well, because he won his first Worlds in 20.
It's been a long era of McBeth.
Long era of McBeth. So my point is that the McBeth era has secondary characters in it that have different, and you could argue that they split generations, but they all fall under the McBeth umbrella, right?
Sure.
For those who are Shoestrick fans, they still fall under the McBeth era. There will be a time, and I don't think you can know until you have hindsight, right? I'm not going to say this is the day, this is the year that the McBeth era has shifted. But I think we are approaching a time when the next generation of fans will not see McBeth necessarily as the main staple character of their disc golf experience on the Pro Tour, but will instead see him as...
By which everyone else is defined.
By which everyone else is defined, yes. But instead will be a secondary player in a larger definition of how they perceive professional disc golf. And I don't know when that's going to be. I don't think anybody can predict when it will be. I think it's always going to have to be something that is retroactive in order to really look back and define.
Sure.
But we're coming close.
We are.
We're coming close, and we may already be in it. And time will only tell, but it's weird. It's weird to feel that transition and to see the cracking of the foundation of the statue that McBeth has been the man of disc golf for so long.
There have been 12 Elite Series and Majors this season. Ricky's won 3, Paul's won 1. Let's go back to 2019. Just check in on 2019. Not a pandemic year. Pre-massive growth of the sport, etc. That year,
that was like a decade ago, right?
Let me count these wins. 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 Elite Series and Majors. Paul McBeth won 9 of them. Ricky won 1 of them. He won 9 of them in 2019. It was sneaky one of his best years that people don't talk about that much. But even if we go back to last year, Ricky had 4 wins. Paul had 3. Mm-hmm. And there were a bunch of guys who had 1, but that's a third of the wins. That is not the case this season. So Ricky's still kind of doing the same thing, but Paul's level has dropped. I don't think there's any way around it. Paul's level has dropped a little bit. But when it comes to the major time, come on. He's going to show up. He showed up for European, and he's going to show up for Worlds, and he's going to show up for USDGC. It's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Before we move on to FPO, I want to just take a quick look at some people who missed the cut. Missed the cash. I love 4-round tournaments where there's a cut. This is the best. Some big names down there. Greg Barsby missed the cut. Adam Hammis missed the cut. Let's see. Andrew Fish. Cole Redolin. Eric Oakley. Austin Hannum. Gavin Babcock. A lot of players missed the cut. It's getting to the point where like cashing is actually like I want to get to the point where cashing is meaningful not just because like you get your money back, but because like if you don't cash, you're like, damn, I missed out on like a couple $1,000s. Mm-hmm. I don't know when we're going to get there. Like at Ledgestone, I'm going to check the numbers here. That's 2021. At Ledgestone, last cash in MPO got $370. It's like, so what? You know? But I want to get to the point where that's coming in at $1,000 and like it actually matters. But you know, it's just it's harder and harder to not only win but to make the cash line. Yep. And you got players up at the top, Josh, who, you know, every week now it feels like there's somebody up there who you don't really know that much about. Randon Latta, Sullivan Tipton. Another strong performance from Kevin Kiefer.
Yeah.
Kevin Kiefer finishing 16th. Kyle Moriarty, top 20. Guys that we don't necessarily know much about. And then, you know, lots of usual suspects, of course. But
Sure.
when those people are taking your spot, you go home early.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you do. Let's talk some FPO.
Let's do it.
We've got Big Money Missy.
Big Money Missy, baby. We talked about it in our React show. That's for subscribers. We do it live in Discord after every Elite Series and major event. We hope you become a subscriber for less than $4 a month to be able to check those React shows out. And we coined the term Big Money Missy because $8,000 payday for Missy. She wins when the money is on the line, Josh.
Could you ask for a better trend? I mean, I guess the majors, but other than that, if you're not going to be like, if you went to a genie and you found a magic lamp and the genie was like, I will give you one wish as a disc golfer, but it cannot be to win every major moving forward. McBeth already used that wish. Then the second best wish would be, I want to win all the big payday tournaments above a certain amount. That's what Missy that's what happened to Missy. That's what she's got now. She wins any tournament that isn't a major, but has a nice fat payout, which not a bad place to be as a disc golfer.
Of course, she set the single season FPO cash winnings record last year, thanks in large part to winning the Tour Championship. But, you know, she also won Throw Pink, which had a fat payday. DMC was the first tournament to really crack the big numbers last year. I think it was $60,000 purse. It was like the first big, like, whoa, payouts are getting huge. And that was her first Elite Series win. And of course, now she wins Ledgestone, which we'll just take a quick dip into the purse watch. $124,000 purse, almost 125, just shy of 125. Easily the biggest payout of the Disc Golf Pro Tour season, coming in just shy of Champions Cup's $130,000 for biggest of the season overall.
Impressive. Very impressive.
$80,000 in added cash, a $10,000 MPO payday, an $8,000 FPO payday for the winners. You know, no matter how you like, the MPO payout for Ledgestone was $87,560. That's just for MPO. That's higher than the total purse of every other Disc Golf Pro Tour event this season. So no matter how you want to slice it, Ledgestone doing big things. The only knock that I think you can really come up with is that the purse is only up 4.5% from last year. So other tournaments are catching up. You know, D-Glow purse goes up 25%. Preserve
also run by Nate Heinold.
Also run by Nate Heinold. Idlewild was only up 3%, so that's also a small growth. But other tournaments are starting to catch up, although this is still in a stratosphere of its own, Josh.
Absolutely. And the other point that I want to make, though, is I think it's a good barometer for what's going to happen as our tournaments reach this threshold, right, of the over $100,000 in purse, it's going to plateau for a while, where it probably won't be stagnant. But I would expect as other tournaments reach that $100,000 mark, their growth numbers also probably turn into 3 to 5% growth every year over year. The boom. The thing is that Ledgestone has been doing this forever. They've been having excellent purses for a long time, and while other tournaments are catching up and riding the disc golf wave, Ledgestone has already established itself and done so. And so once those kind of the wave starts to peter out for the other ones, they will reach higher and closer numbers, and that gap will close. But they'll also reach and those growth numbers that are going to be similar. I don't expect other tournaments to continue to grow at 10, 15% year over year for the next 5 years. I expect within 5 to 3 years, they're dropping to Ledgestone numbers, and then just nice bumps as you go.
Keep in mind that part of the reason that you have a smaller percentage growth for Ledgestone is that the denominator is big, because they're starting with a lot of money from last year. So they added about $6,000 to the purse this year from compared to 2021. That's not much less than like the Preserve added. But the Preserve went from 75,000 to 83,000, and that was a 10% bump because the denominator is smaller. So Ledgestone is going to have to add a lot to match the percentage growth of other tournaments. So, I mean, it's just worth noting that they're still adding almost as much money as other tournaments are adding. It's just that they already have a lot in the pot, so it doesn't look like as much comparatively. But let's talk Missy, huh?
Yeah, for Missy then, what an incredible... before we talk Missy, I actually want to just a little bit more broad. I said this on the React show, but I'm going to say it again. Sunset is one of the best courses the FPO plays all year long.
So good.
Without a doubt. It's so good. And what I love about this tournament, in the combination of Sunset and Northwood, do I think Paige is a little bit overcritical of the U.S. women's courses in her interview with us last Wednesday? Yes, I do. I liked the U.S. women's courses from a fan's perspective. Do I think there is a grain of truth, though, in that critique, that while you can shorten courses, there still needs to be a little bit more variety in the shot shaping necessary on short courses? Yes, I think that's a fair critique to bring up as well. I love that this tournament combines Sunset, that is an accessible course designed around the FPO game, with Northwood, that while wooded still rewards distance as well, because it gives you, it does two things for me. Number one is it showcases the FPO game where it's at, and where the FPO game is today on the Sunset, and gives access to a lot of players, including Missy, to excel at that course and not just play good golf, but really truly play great golf. The second point, though, that I think is really important is that our typical, in our mind, we split distance and woods, right? You have your open course that rewards distance. You have your short course that is technical that rewards woods. Your Northwood for the women combines two of those elements with distance and the woods. It's still a long course for FPO. It's a long course for MPO. It's a long course for FPO, and distance still gets rewarded, but it's not just open up, throw it wherever you want, air it out because it's going to be fine. It's going to be in bounds. If you have distance, you have a clear advantage at Northwood, but you have to be able to hit the fairway. And that means that people like Paige and Kristen have an equal advantage if they can play it smart and well to those like Own and Lisa and Missy. And I love this podium. This podium is just what I want to see in FPO disc golf right now, because it shows a tournament that is designed properly around where the FPO game is at, rewarding a variety of skills. And I love that. I love it. It makes me so happy.
It's an interesting podium. It makes me, I'm actually going to go check, how much was putting a factor this weekend? It was a modest factor for everyone except Owen Scoggins, for whom it was an incredible Owen Scoggins' strokes gained tee to green was .13. the other players on the podium with her had strokes gained numbers ranging from 8 for Paige Pierce to 15 for Missy Gannon. Okay. That means that Missy Gannon off the tee and on approach outshot Owen Scoggins by 15 strokes over the course of the weekend.
Can I add one more thing?
However, go ahead.
Yeah, Owen also had 2 more OB strokes than Missy Gannon did as well.
Great note.
It's really about 17 strokes.
But Owen Scoggins, 14 strokes gained putting. Second best, Holland Handley was at 7. Okay. Just incredible putting numbers on the weekend. 88% C1X, 44% Circle 2. Those are elite MPO numbers. Those are just not even like, those are crazy numbers in FPO. We'll talk a little bit more about Owen in a second, but just to note, like, you're seeing a variety of players up at the top, right? Missy, Owen, Lisa Fakis, Kristen Tatar, Paige Pierce, right? You have some of the truly elite players in the division. You have some players who are known more for their putting. You have players who are more kind of like mixed in their skills, like Missy. And, you know, you got to give credit to Missy. She shot her first ever 1,000 rated round of her career in round 2 at Sunset. And that helped kind of put her in a position to go into the weekend in a strong position. And I did not expect Missy Gannon to win. I mentioned this in the React show. When we came to the final round, I was like, okay, Missy, you know, in the lead, but like, I don't think she's going to win this. I think that we're going to see Paige or Kristen make a run. And she ends up winning comfortably by 6 strokes. And just a great all-around performance from Missy, like super consistent over the course of the 4 days. She shot 996, 1008, 964, 985. And you know what? Those are extremely impressive numbers. And she ends up shooting only 3 shots off the hot round at Northwood. Alexis Mondahano, tip of the cap, 1008 rated 61. That's the course record at Northwood for the women.
What a good FPO tournament this weekend. That really is, in my opinion, just a huge takeaway. And I'd love to see Missy proving us wrong, that even with a loaded field, she still is able. I mean, hasn't had quite the same success. I'd say this season isn't quite as strong as last season, but it wasn't until the end of the season that she really kind of popped off and did some really incredible things. This is about similar timing. So, do you think Missy could be a factor at Worlds?
Sure. Yeah. Why not? I mean, I think the why not is that the courses reward distance to an extreme degree, and that's not her number one skill. But I don't see any reason that she can't be a factor in general. What'd she do at DDO? That's
what I'm pulling up.
Just
right
okay. Now. I mean, she was 19 shots off the win, but I struggle. If you're a putting specialist and Missy's a very strong putter, I don't really know how much faith I put in DDO. Like, Gannon Burr had one of his worst finishes at DDO, but he couldn't putt because it was so windy. Like when you're having one of your, if you're really one of your key skills is that you hit your 30-foot putts, it wasn't happening at DDO, and therefore tough luck. You know, I think I don't think Missy's a favorite at all, but I think that she certainly can win, and I think you see this weekend that she's able to play well on courses. You know, how much is wide open distance bomber shots a factor? I think you just told us it's basically not at Ledgestone. So when you look ahead to Worlds, I think, you know, she's definitely at more of a disadvantage, but she's one of the best players in division. I think she's probably a top 5 player in the division. So yeah, well, you always assume that she can win. She
is 5th right now in the Disc Golf Pro Tour standings.
There you go.
So, well, here's my question, Charlie. I'm going to make you. I'm going to go after you a little bit with that claim. Paige Pierce 1st in Disc Golf Pro Tour, Katrina Allen 2nd, Valerie Mondahano 3rd. Do you still consider Valerie in top 4 of the division?
I think she's having a top 4 season.
Okay. So, and then Kristen. So here's my so Paige, Katrina, Kristen. Right? That we'll put those 3 aside.
Sure.
Valerie, Own, and Missy, who are you going to leave off?
For the fourth spot?
For the fourth and fifth spot. Yeah, you said top 5 in the division.
Oh. I see.
Yeah. I don't care who's fourth and fifth.
You're just talking generally, not world.
Just talking generally.
Wow,
yep.
That's tough.
You said Missy is top 5 in the division, so I want to know, Valerie, Own, or Missy, which one is not top 5 in the world? And, we might be doing disrespect to Henna or Evelina, but...
A lot... I don't think so.
Okay.
A lot of the question comes down to how much are you weighing wins from this year? Like, how much are you weighing the last 6 months versus like looking over like 2 or 3 years? Because if you go back even 1 year of time, calendar wise, Missy still has maybe the best resume among Own, Valerie, and Missy.
Yeah,
because she won the Tour Championship, she won the Throw Pink Championship. I guess Des Moines win wouldn't be in there because that was more than a year ago.
But it's close.
Ledgestone win, and like Valerie's obviously had the better 2022 calendar season, and I would say that Owen Scoggins probably has a pretty good claim to having had a better season overall. She's finished second in 3 straight tournaments.
Yes, she has
on the Pro Tour. Like power rankings, she's up at the top right now. I mean, no one has been so consistent, but wins count for more.
They do.
And Missy over the last 2 total years has been the best of those 3. Now, I think that really then becomes like, where's the dividing line? I think Valerie probably has a higher ceiling than Missy or Own. I think we've seen an incredible all-around game from Valerie, including really strong distance. But I think right now, Missy is still on that list. I go Missy at 4, and I probably go Valerie at 5. I think Own gets left off because she has not won.
I think that's fair. Valerie's got the 2 wins on the Elite Series this season, though has definitely cooled off.
Big time cool off. Yeah.
16th at Ledgestone, 4th at Deglo, not bad, 17th at Idlewild, and then didn't play Europe. So since the U.S. Women's has definitely just cooled, but no reason she couldn't turn it right around.
I have a couple more fun facts for you.
Yeah, hit me with them.
This is actually just the second time that Missy Gannon has beaten Kristen Tatar when they've both been at the same tournament.
I think she should make a plaque for that.
She did DMC, and I'm pretty sure DMC was like the first tournament Kristen Tatar played when she came over to the U.S.
No, it was Worlds, and then
it was Worlds
DMC.
First. Right. Now I remember. Because she came over, she had like a couple days, played Worlds, and then played DMC, and then like slowly accelerated and then started winning everything.
Yep.
And what I will note is that, speaking of the strength of Kristen Tatar, she has never missed the podium. And I'm not talking about this season. I'm talking about ever at an Elite Series event.
No
13
way.
Straight. 13
That's not
straight.
real.
That's real.
That's incredible. Not miss the podium?
She's been unbelievable. This is like Ledgestone is one of her worst finishes this season. Because when she was over here first, she was just first and second the whole time.
It is her worst finish, at least on the Elite Series. Yeah, 3rd place is literally her worst on the Elite Series this season.
Well, if you were worried about the injury, I think it's still reasonable to be worried about the injury, by the way.
I think it is too.
Like, it could deteriorate between now and Worlds, but she clearly can succeed, at least on this course, throwing a lot of forehands, not testing the backhand as much. I do worry a little bit more about Emporia. But, it's also going to be like, shoot it full of cortisone and let's do it,
Yep. Yeah, maybe Paige should not have omitted Kristen as being a factor at Worlds. I think Kristen is probably going to be important.
Ooh, I love it. Some spice. Speaking of Paige Pierce now has more Elite Series and major podiums than anybody in FPO history, past Val Jenkins. Just passed her for major wins, now passes her for podiums on the Elite Series.
Tip of the cap.
Here's this. This is from Statmando. Paige Pierce has 10 times more podium finishes than all but 8 players that are touring right now in FPO. Those players are Katrina Allen, who has 104, Des Redding, Sarah Hokum, Juliana Korver, Jessica Weiss, Kristen Tatar, Lisa Fakis, and Jen Allen. So, goat things.
Goat things.
But another kind of disappointing performance from Paige Pierce this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I know she got a podium, but like, kind of no-showed for the final round. Shot 3 over. Just did not play well at Northwood. Just that's that simple.
You know, Paige in the woods sometimes.
Yep.
It's we know it. Anyway.
We know it. Luckily for her, Emporia ain't no woods.
Ain't
in
no
the plains
woods
of Kansas. All right, we're gonna take a break.
We
gotta do Miss the Cut, right?
Miss Cash. Yeah, we gotta do Miss Cash.
Who missed the cut?
A couple really notable names actually missed the cut this weekend over an FPO. I think Adam Hammis is probably the biggest name over an MPO. Over on FPO, though, you have a current major winner who missed the cut in Haley King. She was I'm not sure how many strokes off, but yeah, Haley King misses the cut. Was just not.
Well, she was horrible in round 1. She shot a 77.
Yeah, terrible in round 1, and then not bad in the other 2 rounds. Would have been fine, but the 77 is
that was 9 over par. Josh Yanwatch put it on the board.
Sorry, guys.
He tried his best, but there was no
I really
stopping
did. Normally I can time him, I'm like, I can feel it coming, so I shut it off. But anyway, so Haley King misses the cut. Additionally, Kona Panis misses the cut. Tiger Borth, Natalie Ryan. Those are the notable missed the cuts.
All right.
From this weekend.
It's tough out there.
It is.
Northwood. It's a grinder. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the state of disc golf media. Don't go anywhere. Sunset Lake CBD is a hemp farm located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake produced milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, and in 2019, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. Sunset Lake believes that their farm-table approach is the best way for you to get responsibly produced, high-quality CBD products that actually work. Sunset Lake CBD crafts topicals, gummies, oils, and more to help with stress, aches, and sleep. You can check out this. I like this. This is the CBD oil with melatonin in it, and it's mint flavor. So at night, make a little mint tea, a couple drops of the CBD oil and melatonin. Go to bed feeling great. Wake up feeling great. It's awesome. So highly recommend checking it out. And you can save 20% right now on all of their products at sunsetlakecbd.com. Just use coupon code UPSHOT. Again, that's sunsetlakecbd.com. Coupon code UPSHOT to check out all of these awesome products. Beautifully packaged, professionally delivered. It's awesome. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer-owned, Vermont-grown. Welcome back to The Upshot. The media. We talk about it here on the show a lot of the time, but it's kind of been, we're in the rhythm, right? We're in the rhythm of the season. We kind of know what to expect. We got the DGN, we got the post-produced. Mostly things are going kind of normally, right? So we had the European Open. We talked a bit about the extra you had to pay if you wanted to watch the post-produced, etc. Back in the news this week because Northwood Black, as last year, did not permit good cellular service on the front 9, and therefore DGN basically just didn't cover the front 9. And a couple highlights, but for the most part, you got to watch 10 to 18. And people were not too happy about that, and understandably so. You expect to be able to tune in, watch these whole rounds, particularly the final round. FPO, you're only watching half the round. It's like a bad throwback to when they were doing combo MPO, FPO rounds.
Oof.
The question here, Josh, is is this a problem? Like, is this a problem that needs to get solved for Ledgestone, or is this just gonna be how it is? I mean, they're not going to put a cell tower over by Northwood Black. You know, maybe they're going to have some clout to try to get them to do something like that, but I highly doubt it. You know, we're talking about the middle of the woods. Like, the cell company doesn't care if you have service over there. Is this a problem, and who needs to fix it?
I want to start with my answer in a little bit of a roundabout way, because when live coverage and DGN really first started rolling, I was not a subscriber. I felt like it was too long. I felt like I didn't enjoy. There were a lot of aspects that I didn't enjoy about it. The quality is significantly improved, as we know. But I thought about what my disc golf media consumption habits were like back then versus now. And I used to set alarm notifications for Jomez on my phone. And when the day before rounds would pop up and I'd get the notification, I would drop whatever I was doing to stop and watch the post-produced round from the day before, because I didn't want to find out via UDisc, via social medias, right? So I would do the social media hiatus around any tournament I was interested in, and I wouldn't check UDisc and I wouldn't look at anything. And I would, first thing in the morning, as soon as the post-produced dropped, I would get up and I'd watch that. And it required a lot. It requires a lot of dedication to go the post-produced route. And I know people talk about how it's a little bit shorter, a little bit more condensed, and that's true. But if you want to be a part of the discussion and be a part of the tournament as it's happening, in order to do that, you have to be really dedicated and put in a lot of work. Fast forward to now, I'm a DGN subscriber. I watch most tournaments live. And when I've found that when I have a work obligation or a family obligation, or there's no cell service on the front nine of a tournament, I do not go out of my way to go find that anymore. I just catch the live that I catch. And then, you know, I find times that I'm doing dishes and I'll throw up a Jomez round from an old tournament that and I'm sure I'll go back and watch these Northwood Black rounds for both MPO and FPO throughout the off season, because I love this course and I love this tournament. But I'm not going to go back and watch them. I'm going to just combo UDisc with the live that I do catch, and I'm not going to go out of my way to engage with it. I think that's a problem for the Disc Golf Network, that my reliance on live means that if they are not going to provide me with live, I'm not going to engage with this tournament as much. And given that Ledgestone is probably, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I think the most important non-major tournament of the season after the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships, in terms of Elite Series, standard Elite Series, I think Ledgestone is the most important one. You got to have coverage. You absolutely have to. And I think that you said on the React show that the only tournament that could ever get away with this is Ledgestone. But I really think it's a problem when the Disc Golf Network has not come up with a solution to addressing the lack of live coverage, especially for a final FPO round.
Stopgap solution could be to have MPO play its final round at Eureka, FPO play its final round at Sunset. Stopgap solution. But long term, this has to get solved. Mm-hmm. It just has to get solved. Like, you start now for next year and you figure it out. And I don't know where you want to put the onus, because it's kind of DGN's problem, but there's a give and take between tournaments and the Pro Tour. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it's acceptable to not show 9 holes for 4 days of a tournament. I just don't think it's acceptable. Like, if the coverage plan is the coverage plan, and the way that you do your coverage is that you show the full round of the feature card or the lead card, then you need to commit to doing that for all of your Pro Tour Elite Series events. And it's one thing for that to kind of catch them off guard last year, but they knew this was a problem.
Yep.
And here we are again. So one possible answer would be to have MPO and FPO both play their first 2 rounds at Northwood and just be like, we're going to be like the Masters and only show you the second half of the round for the first 2 days. But then you see full rounds the second 2 days. That would also be an acceptable stopgap solution. But I think they need to get in there and they need to find some way to either wire cameras or get some kind of Wi-Fi network built with access points. And like, yes, it's going to be expensive, and yes, it's going to be a headache, and yes, you're going to have to figure out how to make sure that you can get the signal throughout the woods. But this is not an impossible thing to do. It's not impossible. And the alternative, which is what it is right now, is a bad alternative. Mm-hmm. But I think this gets to a bigger point that I want to make, which gets to what you just said. The consumption habits of people who follow disc golf are beginning to change. Now, of course, there are still many thousands of people who do not subscribe to DGN, who may not even know about DGN. I mean, besides the fact that I think, the post-produced coverage folks have to put DGN ads in their coverage as a part of a stipulation for being able to cover disc golf pro tour events. So they're aware in passing, but there's going to be a lot of people who just always want to consume it for free on YouTube. That's just how they do it, and that's how they're always going to do it, and they don't want to hear about it any other way, and that's fine. But more and more people, I think, Josh, are in your camp where live is the priority, and they may not even watch post-produced anymore. I almost never watch post-produced at this point. I basically only use post-produced as a way to catch up when I can't watch the live. And I need to watch around in as quick a time as possible because I want to come on the show and be informed. And then I'll throw on GK or Jomez, put it at 2x speed, and rip through the round. That is nice to have that option. Yep. But it's not I don't sit there and watch it for the enjoyment of it. I am going to watch the live if I am watching disc golf. And I'm more likely to watch UDisc than I am to watch Jomez. I am too. I'll scoreboard watch more than I will watch post-produced. And I think that I've been saying for many years that this is where we're headed. That live is where we're headed. And there was a lot of skepticism, I think.
I was
even 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, even 2 or 3 years ago, I was a skeptic. I watched exclusively Jomez except for 1 or 2 tournaments.
But DGN's ability to cover basically the entire season with pretty high level of consistency and this is kind of the biggest blackout we've had this season is this tournament of the front 9 at Northwood.
Do you remember
when they haven't had the stream go down? They've worked out a lot of the technical kinks. They have a lot of cameras. So of course there's problems. Of course there's things that go wrong. But they overall are covering every tournament. And if you're just a casual, you can still watch the final rounds for free on YouTube.
Yep.
And that's huge. That is huge. Now, there's still more people watching Jomez. Let's be clear. But that the number is shifting towards people paying attention live. Because, of course, when we watch sports, we want to see things happen when they're happening. We want to be able to talk about what's going on with the other people who are watching. The Ulti-World Disc Golf Discord for subscribers is popping off in live chat every time there's a tournament round, regardless whether it's Silver Series all the way up to majors. And that's just fun, right? That's fun. That's how you want to experience sports. You want to be in the live chat on social media. You want to be able to go on Twitter. You don't want to have to try to hide your eyes. And, everything has been pushing this way. There used to be spoiler, policy on Reddit, and that's gone, as it should be. And you see a lot less of people complaining about spoilers now. And that's because the transition to live consumption is happening right now. And what I also think that means, Josh, is that there is a higher burden on DGN to continue to improve the product. Mm-hmm. So when you have things like this where they just don't show you 9 holes for each of the first 4 rounds, come on. We can't have that. I want to see emphasis on improving the product more and more. There's still a lot of limitations to DGN's presentation. They've added more cameras, but there's still glaring weaknesses, particularly in the audio department. There's still not consistency in like the sideline reporters, audio being accessible during the round. You throw it to Terry, and Terry's not there half the time. And that is, it's unprofessional. It annoys the viewers. It's frustrating for the commentators. I can speak personally to that. It's frustrating for Terry or whoever the on-course reporter is. It's super frustrating. And so there's like all these things that need to get worked on. And like DGN now doesn't get to continue to have the benefit of the doubt because they're the only live coverage in town. And like to some extent, they're still going to get that. But like the burden is now on DGN because they're the big dog and they're covering all these tournaments and they're doing all these events and all this live, they have to deliver.
Yep.
And so I am at the point where I don't want to hear about how hard it is to do this and that, and it's expensive and this and that. I'm like, yeah, okay. But you have 30,000 subscribers or whatever. Like, it's on you to figure it out. Mm-hmm. It's on you to figure it out at Northwood. I think that's the first time I put an S on it in like
I think so
2
too.
weeks. God.
Yeah. I think you did it before I did.
It makes you want to say the S.
Because last year I added the S every time and someone's like, Josh, knock it off. And I've been very good about it this season.
People were making the mistake. Commentators were making the mistake.
Brody was making the mistake. He put social media stuff over. Yeah, they do. Northwood.
There's something about Northwood. It just wants the S.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is the expectations on DGN are going to rise as they should and I'm realistic. Mm-hmm. I know the challenges of live coverage. I know that it's hard and they're doing all this stuff remote. It's incredibly technically brilliant, a lot of what they do. But there's basic elements that must get solved.
Yep.
And like, it's super frustrating to have a weekend like this where there's like no 9-hole coverage. And I know it frustrates the producers too. Like the DGN people, I'm sure, are just like, this is the worst thing ever.
Oh, sure.
Because what can they do? Like, they're remote producing the show. There's nothing they can do. They can't go to Northwood and fix it. But there's like some stuff, like the delay for commentary. Like that 2023, it must be a thing of the past. There's no acceptable answer, but we've solved it. That's how I feel about it. I literally cannot stand going back and like watching back. If I'm on play-by-play and I watch it back and I watch the disc go into the basket and there's 2 seconds of dead air and then we all go, ah, it's horrendous. It's horrendous.
I'm going to hit you with some stats. You ready for this, Charlie?
I'm ready.
Jomez final round front nine has 133,000 views on YouTube right now. It is 8:06 a.m. Mountain Time, Tuesday, August 16th. I'm sure that number will change, but as of right now, 133,000 views. Really weird part, the back nine has 110,000. So 23,000 people watch the front nine and not the back nine of MPO. Weird.
Don't understand
anyway,
that. But.
Don't understand. You are weird people. How many views do you think the Disc Golf Network has on their YouTube for that final round of MPO?
For the stream that's still on YouTube?
Yes. Oh, so that's the free round.
75,000.
It's not a bad guess. 87,000. So we are about 50,000 off. Not even. Yeah, about 50, just under 50,000. About 45,000 views difference between Jomez and the YouTube live. That does not count. I would say maybe a third of the Disc Golf Network subscribers probably watched on their Disc Golf Network. So,
the question I have, Josh, let's look back at last year's final nine, or final round Jomez Ledgestone.
Okay, you pull that up and I'll pull up.
Now, obviously, it's been on YouTube for a year,
Golf Pro
so
Tours.
It's definitely not apples to apples, but it's still a data point. The final front nine has 508,000 views last year. 508,000. And this year, and that was like the weird, that was the cancel. That was round 3, basically.
Right.
There is clearly a downtrend happening in post-produced coverage consumption. I mean, it's easy to identify, even accounting for the fact that stuff is on YouTube less time, like the current stuff. There's just fewer people watching post-produced. Yeah, Josh, you're not alone in being someone who basically has gone from almost exclusively consuming, Jomez to not watching it much at all, except in the off season.
Yep.
That has an impact.
And you want to know what I think is the most impactful part about this, Charlie? I watched Jomez for pretty consistently up until midway. I would say last year was my kind of a transition to live. I was enjoying live more. I was watching more of it. I think in large part because I started doing the podcast. So we'll say, 2020 is my last Jomez year. I started really watching it in 2017-ish. So 3 to 4 seasons of pretty intense Jomez watching. I bought the occasional merch, but I never was Patreon. I never gave Jomez my money, really. And Disc Golf Network, I now pay monthly for. And I'm going to continue to pay monthly for. And because the ability to have the live sports is enough of a value for me that even though I think Jomez production is still just top tier, and maybe this is a knock. Maybe I'm going to get fried in the comments and people are going to say, why didn't you get on Patreon? You should have supported them. And you're probably right. I probably should have, but it was a free service on YouTube that I enjoyed. I have Disc Golf Network is still in it's still learning. It's still newer. And I have been watching it now for a year and a half. And I already am giving them my money. And so that's important. That's important for the Disc Golf Network that they're able to establish and achieve that they're able to take people's money and use that from a subscriber standpoint because it gives them the capital to reinvest and improve that product.
And you think about where we're headed, we've had Jonathan Gomez on talking about this. They don't know where it's going to be after next year. They signed this 2-year deal, $250K a year, big dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the Pro Tour going to want to do in 2024 vis-a-vis pros produced? They're already experimenting with doing their own in-house coverage, which, in-house in quotes, because they're still having outside producers like Central Coast and GK produce that coverage and just white label it basically. But it is very conceivable that they're going to create that as an in-house product that goes behind the paywall or maybe eventually goes on YouTube after some amount of time. And, it's going to drive more people to be subscribers. And that may cut out all of these post-production companies from doing round coverage for free on YouTube. That is very possible. That is a very possible world that we will be living in, which is why I think you're seeing Jomez and other outfits branching out into other content categories. Now, I think it remains to be seen what kind of level of success that can have relative to having round coverage that is the backbone still of the majority of views and the majority of people who kind of care about the company. Now, I'm not worried about Jomez, specifically, because I think those guys have figured out ways to monetize content, to sell the merch, to do the Patreon thing, to create content that people like to watch outside of the actual round coverage themselves. And it is not crazy to imagine that, they get contracted for big money by, DGPT, and it's like DGPT X Jomez. And like maybe the rounds still end up on the Jomez channel eventually, but their initial release is behind the paywall. Like that's possible. Week. Now, who knows? Maybe Jonathan is going to say absolutely not. I won't do that, and he's been very resistant to doing that kind of thing in the past. But when the alternative is you don't get to do any round coverage, that may end up being an appealing thing. We don't know where it's headed. I don't think we're ever going to see the end of freely available post-produced coverage ending up on YouTube at some point. But it may not be next day anymore. Like I think that's probably where we're headed. It's an interesting time, and I think things aren't really going to change dramatically in 2023, but I think they could in 2024. And, there's a lot of writing on the wall about a lot of these things, including the decrease in viewership of post-produced rounds, period. Interesting times, Josh.
Interesting times. It'll be interesting to see where we go.
We're going to leave it there. When we come back with you on Thursday, we're talking Des Moines Challenge. We're also going to be looking ahead a little bit to Worlds. We're going to talk about what's going on with the cut line for the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoffs, because GMC is a playoff tournament. You got to be top 100 MPO, top 64 FPO. We're going to look at where things stand going into DMC, who's on the outside looking in for the playoffs, who's still trying to get that playoff spot to earn more points towards getting into the Tour Championship. So lots to come. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you Thursday right here on The Upshot.